Welcome to the 90s Kid Library Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Goodman. I'm a professor, collector, and librarian of a pretty extensive home library of 90s media. I started this podcast to learn more about my favorite books, movies, and TV shows from this era, and we have a wonderful guest today. He illustrated tons of book covers from our childhoods, including Give Yourself Goosebumps, Animorphs, Replica, and many more. You can catch him at Curse City Con in San Antonio, Texas, September 27th and 28th. Please welcome Craig White. I've always been interested in books, always have collected books, but in 2020, during the whole pandemic, things got a little more crazy.
Cool, yeah.
I think with the pandemic, for a lot of people, it was a time of a lot of anxiety and fear, and
Yeah.
something about collecting and reconnecting with things that I grew up with just made me feel better. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think a lot of us collectors started either ramping it up during the pandemic or started collecting, started amassing some collection during that time, mainly for mental health reasons.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's cool. Awesome.
Do you collect
Love it.
anything or no?
I used to let's see. No, I have so much stuff. I try not to collect things.
That's
I've
wise because
noticed
then you
over
end
the
up with
years.
something like this.
Well, no, yours is amazing. No, I don't really haven't collected much. I got into a lot of hobbies. I mean, I've done during the pandemic, I did mountain biking and all kinds of crazy stuff. I wish I would have collected because I ended up breaking my collarbone
Oh
and
no,
punctured a lung. It was just
you punctured a
craziness.
lung.
Punctured a lung.
So was this when you were biking
During the
and
pandemic. No, yeah, I was screwing around and being goofy and crashed and ended up in the hospital for 4 days. And
oh my
it was
goodness.
fun. It
Oh,
was
sure.
fun.
And
Just
especially
kidding.
during
It
the
was,
pandemic when everybody there is like really
yeah, my
sick.
wife could, no one could come. She dropped me off at the in the ER, and there was like three other people in the emergency room, and she just had to leave me there for 4 days. I couldn't see anybody. It was weird.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. At least you weren't
Yeah.
there for some other scarier reason,
Yes.
perhaps.
Yeah, I should have been collecting books. It would have been a lot better for my health, I think. It would have been a lot better.
Sure,
But
sure. I see a
yeah.
lot of guitars in the background. Are you a musician as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I play a little bit and I'm in a band that meets once every 3 years. And we just it's like a garage band. We just have a lot of fun. So yeah,
Why
I do
once
have
every
I
3 years?
do
Everybody lives somewhere else.
yeah, everybody's in Orange County. So everybody's like, and no one can we can never seem to get on a Saturday together, everybody at once.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I did a solo album of just guitar stuff. And the name of the band is Skylight Asylum, which is on Spotify. And
Oh my goodness, I'll have to check
yeah,
that out. That's so
yeah,
cool.
it's cool. It's
What?
different stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of music?
It's kind of like I call it progressive heavy, like heavy metal, but it's not real. I mean, it sort of is, but it's kind of like progressive. No vocals because I can't sing, but I play okay. So yeah, so it's pretty cool.
No, that
It's
does
pretty
sound
cool.
cool. I'll have
It
to
was
check that
that's
out.
what I did. That's actually I did that during the pandemic. I was like, that was one of my goals. I was like, I want to do an album, just me, do the whole thing, the drums, the guitars, the bass, everything. And I did it, and I'm very proud of it. It's only like 8 songs or something like that. But
I mean, that's
that's
still very impressive. Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
thanks.
And
Thanks.
did you do the album artwork since you're
Yeah,
an
yeah,
artist as
yeah, I
well?
did. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That's one thing that it was easy for me to do.
Yeah. I would have been disappointed if you, I don't know, outsourced it to someone else.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up here, I actually had to tear it off the wall because it was fixed on there pretty tightly.
Awesome.
So I have this
Oh, that's
sketch
so
from
cool.
you. I love
Oh,
this piece. So we have Slappy and the monster from It Came from the Internet,
yeah,
little
yeah,
mashup. This was your
yeah.
first time doing Slappy.
Yeah, that was a challenge. I had no idea. And I talked about this with Tim once before, and I was like, man, I don't know how you guys draw him. There's something about that head that I can't. It's a challenge to say the least. But yeah, but it came out okay. I like the way that
Oh,
drawing came
I love it. I was so blown away when you showed me it. I was
out. Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely love it. Something about
Awesome.
tentacles is always
That
really interesting on a monster.
dude, I love that's one of my favorite things to draw is tentacles, worms and tentacles. I don't know why. It's like, I don't know, it's something, I guess it's always been sort of a challenge to kind of make them look like they have some sort of mass other than just a rubber noodle. So
Well, there might be more flexibility in the orientation of something like, I don't know, an octopus or a worm, as opposed
yeah,
to a person who can only bend in so many angles. I don't know if that has
right.
anything to
Yeah,
do with it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I was wondering too, when you created this piece or when you work on any of your illustrations, do you have a very clear image in your head already perfectly realized, and then the job is just to transfer that onto the canvas, onto the computer screen, or is it more of like you discovering it as you go? You have a general idea and then you unearth it.
Sometimes, yeah, it usually starts, and this was for all of my work. Seems like where I'm talking about it, whether it's for a book cover or anything else, I start to get if I don't have a visual, like a faint visual idea when I start, it take it, it takes a while to get there. But usually there's something that starts forming in my head. And it's not clear. Like I wish it was like crystal clear. Some people are like, oh, I got a photographic memory, whatever. But no, it's kind of a general idea of what we're gonna do. And then sometimes it's completely just sitting on a piece of paper and just sketching until you get something that's looks like you like. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, because I mean just looking at the sketch you did for me, all those like wild writhing tentacles, is it like, oh I drew a line over here, so I guess that has to be a tentacle now or that
With
kind of thing?
No, with that one, it's kind of like I kind of, after been doing this for so many years, you have an idea for what good composition comes out to be. But sometimes I'll draw something and I'm like, oh, that can't go there. Like if the tentacle's in the wrong spot, I'm like, it doesn't look right. So you kind of fiddle with it until you get it right. But yeah, generally, yeah, I have an idea of what makes a decent composition. Sometimes, though, it starts off and I'm think this is great, and then I look at it and I'm like, no, it's completely wrong. You got to scoot everything over or whatever. So yeah, it's a little bit of give and take. Um, like I said, I wish I could just go, oh yeah, this is what I want and do it, but I'm not that
I feel
good.
like that's the classic kind of story of an artist where they have this image in their head and they just have to get it out onto a canvas. But I feel like it rarely ever happens that way.
I can't imagine. I'm sure there are people that can do that, but man, I'm not one of them. It takes a while.
Yeah,
But
and
you
I
do get better at it as you go along. I mean, it gets easier the more you do, like anything, I guess. So
and that's another question I had for you too. So when did this all start? Were you always doodling as a kid? This interest in art?
yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, my I have a twin brother and we were always doing art type things. Him more so probably than me, and he's 8 minutes older, so I had to follow him around.
Oh, of course.
But we've always been doing things, creative type things that I can remember. My dad, when we were little, probably about 4 or 5 years old, he built us an art table out of formica, and it was short, so it was just our table that we would do all of our crafts and stuff at. But yeah, and I remember the first time I remember it being significant was I was in probably second grade in school, second or third, and we used to get, so Scholastic. Speaking of Scholastic used to have this thing called Scholastic Book Club. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but when I was a kid, they would have these little flyers that they would give to the teachers, and the teachers would pass them out, and you could order books from the flyer. And I wasn't a reader, so I always got like the joke books and stuff like that. And so I remember I ordered this joke book and they came in, and on the cover was a cartoon of something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but I remember drawing the thing from the front, and the teacher was walking around the classroom up and down the aisles, and she stopped right next to me and stopped talking. And I was like, oh no. And she reached down and she picked it up and she said, oh, this is really nice. And she turned around and showed it to everybody. And that was the first time I remember thinking, oh, I didn't get in trouble. Maybe this isn't such a bad deal. So
That's an amazing teacher story. It
isn't
really
that funny?
is. I mean,
We
that could
had
have gone a very different way, and maybe that would have impacted you differently. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, we had it was a Catholic school, and all the teachers they weren't nuns, but they were like I guess just regular teachers, but they were a bunch of hippies and they loved creativity. So it was pretty cool. I was very fortunate to be have them as teachers. So they were very encouraging.
Oh, that sounds
But
perfect. Yeah.
I still couldn't read worth a darn. I don't know. I still think I may be dyslexic or something. I don't know. But
Well, so you said your brother also is an artist and he's an artist now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He
He's
made the shirt for you, right?
Yeah, he did. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, he does a lot of animation. Like he makes games like on that you can buy on App Store and stuff like that.
Oh,
They're
cool.
animated type things. Yeah, so he does his style is more I wouldn't say cartoon like, but it's more of it's a younger audience, I guess is what you would say. Like Highlights magazine, he's done a lot of illustrations for
Oh,
them.
really? Oh, we get highlights for my kids. That's so
Oh,
funny.
do you?
Yeah,
You
he
might see
probably
his
did
work.
some of the artwork in there of our
Yeah, he
issues that
does
we have.
yeah, a lot of the seek and find where you got to find the comb or whatever,
Yeah,
there's always a comb. We
exactly.
always
Yeah,
talk
or a
about that. We're
banana.
laughing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, comb and banana. You got to bury the comb in the banana.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, his name's Brian White. So you probably have seen some of his work.
Oh,
So
that's so funny.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
still working. Yeah. So we're both still doing what we're doing. It's
And when you were
crazy.
kids, I mean, what kinds of things did you work on together? Were you making comic books, like fun stuff like that?
Oh, we did. Well, we did a lot of stop motion animation. That was
Really?
fun. Convince my parents to buy cameras and all kinds of stuff. And, we did some things like I was really into sci-fi at a young age. And we were actually really into horror. We used to have Fangoria magazine.
Oh,
And
cool.
it would come and my mother would see the cover and she just rolled her eyes and we were just lapping it up. We
Well,
loved
it's
it.
destiny that you were going to do the Goosebumps covers then.
I guess
Sounds
so.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess so. And I loved it. I remember taking, I don't know if anybody remembers this movie. It was a movie called Scanners,
Oh, of
and it was
course. Yeah,
David
David
Cronenberg.
Cronenberg. Hmm.
So my mother takes my brother and I, funny story. She takes us to the movie theater and it was rated R. And we are probably 14 years old, maybe. And the guy at the front was like, you can't come in without they can't come in by themselves because it's rated R. And she was buying our tickets and she said, because she was just going to drop us off.
Right.
So my mother bought herself a ticket and we watched Scanners. Me and my 14-year-old brother and my poor mother sat and watched that movie. And she's such a trooper. I don't think she ever complained. She never looked away. And if mostly, well, not mostly everybody's seen Scanners, but it's pretty rough.
Oh, there's the head explosion within the first, like, I don't know, 10 minutes of the movie, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Michael
Exactly.
Ironside, I think, is
Yeah.
he in there.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
toward the end, like all the oh, I don't even know how to describe that scene, but when they're finally battling it out at the end and
Yes. All
he's
the
like falling
blood
apart.
dripping
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. I can't believe my mom did that. But yeah, that was fun. So yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we never really worked on art projects together, so to speak, but we did do a lot of stop motion, claymation and stuff like that. And I was fascinated by all that stuff, movie stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds so cool. I was always fascinated with claymation as well, as a kid. Never really succeeded at creating something.
Yeah, we neither. It was a ball rolling across, and then maybe a frog that sucks up the ball. It
Yeah.
probably took 6 months and $1,000 back then just to
I'm
do something silly
I'm
like that.
surprised you didn't try and recreate like a scene from Scanners or something like that.
Oh, we should have. That would have been a good idea.
So it sounds like, yeah, your brother's an artist. Do you feel like this interest in art or even this gift in art, if I'm allowed to say that, do you feel like it's something you had to work at? Do you feel like you were born with some skill or some interest? Do your parents have anything passed on to you?
That's a good question. My dad was a not an architect, but he could draw house plans and stuff.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was always sort of creative. I had on my mother's side, my we have all of my aunts painted oil painting, but my brother Brian, I always kind of was jealous because it always seemed easy for him. Like he could do something really simply, and I would struggle at it. I mean, I had to work at it. I mean, he has paintings still at my mom's house that are beautiful oil paintings, and I would do something like a polar bear, and it was horrible. And I remember just kind of given up on that because I loved like Conan the Barbarian, the comic books and stuff. I loved all that stuff as a kid, and he was like, no, he could draw like from real life, and anyway, so yeah, it always seemed easy for him, and for me, it was more of a struggle. But like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I think that with any of these skills that people have, whether it's musical, more fine art type things, I do feel like there's a strong genetic component. I don't know why, but I do think you still need to work at it, still need to practice in order to get better at it.
yeah.
Did you have any idols growing up? Somebody you idolized, like you wanted to be this type of artist or that type of artist, other than your brother, maybe?
I loved Frank Frazetta's work. I and the going back to the Conan comic books, there's a guy named John Buscema who I just loved his work. I just loved it. So I think I was more drawn to the comic book stuff, which is how I ended up getting into doing book covers in a weird way, was through comic book work. So not that I did comic book work, but it was work with Marvel and Fleer. So yeah. So in a weird kind of way, that's how it got me there.
Right, yeah, and I think I heard you mention in another interview that you were doing trading cards. Is that
Yep.
right? So that was for
Yeah.
Marvel?
Yeah. Brian knew a friend who was in New York, and they were looking for digital artists to do trading cards because at the time, no, it's the comic book industry was going nuts. This was in the mid to late I guess mid 90s, I guess. And everything was, they were just throwing as much product at people as they could to try and get them to buy stuff. And so we did a series of, I think, 12 trading cards with Fleer, and they were Marvel characters, and I didn't draw any of them. One of the guys, there was four of us in this group. It was called Tractor, was the name we decided to go with. I didn't. I was just part of the group, and so it was four artists, and one of the guys drew all the pictures, the sketches, and then we would take them and turn them into digital, art like airbrushing or whatever. And that's kind of where it started. And I we I think we each did four, I guess, and or three, maybe we did three each. And then yeah, and then I started getting work for actually the girl the lady that my brother knew. Her friend was my agent now. He knew her, so that whole thing kind of came together. It's very bizarre. It's just like all these little dominoes fell in the right spot. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound that way. How did you end up getting the Goosebumps gig?
That was through my agent. So right after we started doing the trading cards, I think I was doing a lot of them. They decided, the Tractor group said, no, it's too much pain in the rear. They didn't want to do it. So I said, well, I'll do as many as you can throw at me. And so I was doing a bunch of them with other comic book artists drawing. So they would send me a sketch or whatever, and then I would just paint on top of it. And then my agent Peter Lott contacted Dale, and who was the lady that we were doing the trading cards with, and he said, hey, I'm looking for a digital artist that can or an artist that can do Goosebumps style stuff, but it has to be digital. And so she gave him my phone number, and I called them, and he said, he remembers this, I don't remember it, but he said that it was like on a Friday, and he said, can you give me a sample that I can send to the art director? And he says I did two of them. I don't remember doing two of them, but he said I did two, and they loved them. For Monday, he got them on. I guess I emailed them to him, and then he showed them to the client, and that was it. That's how it kind of started.
Do you remember what the samples were for
No,
exactly? Were they
I
for
wish I
actual
did. I
covers
wish.
or?
Oh man, I'll have to. All of my backups and everything are on CDs. CDs. You guys don't even know what
No,
CDs are,
no, I know.
but DVDs, right? And most of those just, they don't last. And so I have one or two Goosebumps covers that are, I don't have copies of them. So I'm just like, it's a bummer, but I just don't because I can't read the CD. And anyway, so I wish I knew what it was. He said he really liked them. I don't remember what they were though. That was a long time ago.
And how did you get into digital art specific? Was there a reason that you decided to start learning how to do art digitally?
Yeah, well, when I started working in, I was in advertising at first, and there was a transition from doing stuff traditionally to computers, and I took to it like a duck to water. My brother and I both did. We were like, man, this is it's because it's the first time I didn't have to get my hands messy. I didn't have to deal with paint because everything, stinks up your studio or whatever. And I really just loved it and was not afraid. And he was working actually at a company, and they had a tablet. This was before Wacom even came out, and they had a tablet. And I remember going to his work, and he was like, "I'm like, well, how do you use it?" And he's like, "The pin," and it had a cord coming out of it, and it connected to the tablet. And then Wacom came out with their tablets, and so it was affordable all of a sudden. And that's kind of where it all started. As soon as I got the tablet, it was off and running. I was like, oh, this is great. So yeah, so we both just jumped right in. And this is back. Photoshop was like, I think the very first version of Photoshop I used was 2.0 or something like that. It was like black and white, and it was crazy, but self-taught, and I never took a class. We just kind of figured it all out. So
Did you ever get any flack from fellow artists who felt like maybe digital art's not real art?
no, but I remember feeling a little bit sorry, not a little bit. I felt sorry for some of the guys that were in the business that I knew were not going to switch. And I remember thinking, you have to do it. You either have to, and you don't have to. I mean, there are plenty of people. Even Tim was like, he didn't, he was like, I can do this traditionally, and he could, but I was never that fast. And what they ended up doing, I think what the industry, the reason why they wanted to do digital, A, they had more control, and B, they could tell us to make changes that you didn't have to start over. So that was kind of, I think that's what really kind of drove it in the very beginning. But
Yeah.
I mean, I was glad to give away all my stuff. It was like when CDs came out, I was like, oh, good, I get rid of all these albums that skip all the time. I wish I'd held on to them. Of course, I didn't, but it was kind of like that. I was just ready to move on. So
So you consider yourself more of an early adopter, you think?
I
Moving on
think
to CDs
so.
early, moving on to digital art early.
Yeah, well, no, not Laserdisc or Betamax, not that early.
Uh-huh.
But I remember being when it got to the point where it was like, yeah, it was more convenient. I'm just lazy, so it worked out well for me. So yeah,
And so that's part of the reason you got this Goosebumps gig because they were looking for somebody who does digital art.
absolutely.
Tim Jacobus, who was the original Goosebumps
Hmm.
artist, he did also eventually transition to digital art.
Yep.
But I think all of the Goosebumps covers that he did that were actually published books were all still done traditionally.
Yeah.
But it seems like, yeah, it seems as though everybody, a lot of people at least, did transition to digital.
I mean, I always looked at it as just another tool set. It was like either like painting in acrylics or oils or whatever. It was just another. You still needed the skills to do it. But it was just a different tool.
Right, right. So I do want to talk about your first cover. So I did pull that one from my shelf here. So
There it
this
is.
is your first one, correct?
Yes, that is
Stop
the
till you
first one.
drop dead.
Yeah.
So when creating this cover, as well as some of the other first covers that you did for Goosebumps, did you do research beforehand to try and figure out like what makes a Goosebumps cover to make sure you capture those same elements or that same essence?
I'm sure I did. I'm sure that I didn't really go to the bookstore and look at the books, but I know that I saw some of the work my agent must have sent me and said, this is what they look like, and this is kind of what they're looking for. And they were like, I guess, it was kind of do what you want, kind of a weird thing, when, and I think was talking to Mark and Tim about this in the beginning. For me, it was like I'd do a sketch or two and they're like, sure, well, whatever, and kind of let me pick colors, and I just kind of went nuts and did whatever I wanted to do. But yeah, there were definitely some stuff that I saw ahead of time, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I want to point out too for this cover, so one of the common elements that Tim Jacobus had used for many of his original Goosebumps books were like checkered floors or tiled floors.
Oh,
Sometimes
really?
you would then have
I
like
didn't know
tiled
that.
ceilings, things like that. And I do notice that in the background here, there is a
Yep.
black and white tiled floor. I don't know if that
Yes.
was intentional or do you feel like,
No, I wish I could say it was.
okay,
No, I don't think so. I remember thinking, and I said this before. This was back before there was Google or anything. So if we wanted references for something, you had to have it either go they were like it had to be in a mall, and I'm like, what does a mall look like Macy's or something like that is what they were describing. And I'm like, and I remember I didn't have time to I was in Houston, so it would have been Foley's back then. And go just look around. And we didn't have digital cameras. So if I wanted to take a picture of something, I had to go get it developed. Blah, goes on and on. So I kind of just winged it. And I remember doing it and thinking, doesn't really look like I mean, I assumed they put stuff away at night in a store, because if there's jewelry cases there that are empty. And I'm like, I just don't know. So I just kind of winged it and nobody said anything. I remember it was like I was kind of so it always surprised me. Sometimes I thought things would get kicked back and I was like, ooh, got in under the wire, no problem. So yeah, I don't know where the checkered floor came from. Well, that was the 90s. So, it was a lot of checkers and
that's a
and
good point. Yeah,
a lot of pinks and greens and stuff.
absolutely. Yeah. And what kind of notes did they give you? You said that they gave you a lot of leeway, a lot of freedom, autonomy to do the cover the way you wanted, but they gave you some notes somehow. Did they fax you or?
Yes, it was. It would probably have been a fax back then, and because email was just kind of getting started,
Yeah.
and it was probably we did a lot of faxing, and I know that we did a lot of FedExing, discs back and forth, and I would imagine they were faxes. Yeah, probably so. And I wish I had them all. I don't have any of that stuff. But it was basically just a summary. It wasn't like there were no real, if I remember correctly, there were no real notes on the book itself. It was
Because the book
basically,
probably wasn't written yet, to be
yeah,
quite honest.
probably
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
They just
yeah,
had a
probably
title.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so was we were basically just it was just basically like probably two sentences maybe of this is the character and this is the setting, and that was pretty much it. So I remember when that illustration, the first one, I originally had him coming up the stairs and he had bags in his hands and they were not covering his crotch.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even think about it, I guess, because it's sort of based on the Beast from X-Men. If you kind of look at it, it kind of
Oh,
has
that
that kind of
makes
feel,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
Not I don't think it was I think it was subconscious. Wasn't trying to do that, but since I was doing a lot of comic book stuff back then, that's kind of probably where it started. And I remember thinking yeah, I did it and they were like, yeah, can you move the bag over so it covers his crotch? And I was like, okay, no problem, good idea, good catch.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you would have to sketch out an idea first, and then they
Mhm.
would approve it or make some notes. Did
Yep.
you have to do a bunch of sketches before they picked one, or?
um I don't think so. Maybe two, kind of from different directions, maybe. Um, I was lucky, and I remember talking to Mark, and he was like, "Man, it was hard for him because they requested a lot of different changes and stuff like that." And then for me, it wasn't so bad. So
Yeah, and Mark
yeah.
Nagata, who was originally doing the Give Yourself Goosebumps books,
Mhm.
he was still using traditional art, so those changes did take longer. He probably had to ship giant 20 by 20 inch,
Yeah, yeah,
paintings, canvases
yeah.
to the New York office.
Yeah.
And so you were mailing discs or floppy disks? Would they come in a
Yeah,
floppy
well,
disk?
back then we had zip disks and jazz disks. So they were like a floppy disk on steroids, for lack of a better term, but they were sort of like that. And I remember we would FedEx them, and sometimes they needed to be there on, if it was a Friday and it needed to be there on Monday, I had to go to the FedEx office closest to the airport. So I remember driving to the airport to drop these darn discs in the mail, or, in FedEx, so they could get them the next day or whatever, or a
Were you
couple of
ever
days.
late?
Not that I recall. I only had to do that maybe once or twice. So I was lucky in that I didn't have too many things like that. So, yeah.
Right,
So
right. And so you're saying they didn't really give you too much pushback on any of the major decisions you'd make when creating these illustrations. I mean, were there any examples of changes that they did want you to make, perhaps for just one or a couple?
I can't really remember anything that was really not right. I remember doing a lot of different versions of the guy in the elevator. I'm sorry, with the hands.
Elevator to nowhere.
Yes, there were like three or four different heads that I had to do for that one. And he gets more and more, looks like it ended up looking like Doc from Back to the Future. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
Uh but yeah, so I did a bunch of different versions of that one. That I do remember having multiple sketches for, but they were pretty lenient for, as far as I remember. It wasn't much of a big deal to do. They didn't have a lot of changes, which was nice.
What would you say was still the most challenging aspect of creating these Goosebumps covers?
I think the most challenging thing was kind of living up to the artwork that had come before. That was something that um, I was really kind of conscious of, and just trying to make sure that they were cool. I was, at the time, I was probably in, or almost 30, I guess, when I was making them. So I was way outside the range of the kids that were buying them. But I just thought, what would be neat looking? That's the kind of what I tried to do when I was designing a cover. It was like, what would be cool? What would I like think is cool? And that's kind of where they came from. Some of the stuff that I saw some of the things that Mark did, and they're really complicated, like the roller coaster and the all the little things. That bums me out as an artist, to be able to have to do things like that, where lots of, like, the stuff my brother does, like those find the comb thing, that make me crazy. I have to like pick one. I love, and to this day my art's similar in every respect, is there's usually one subject, and then some details around the outside, but not too much, because I get bummed out by little bitty things, like putting together a puzzle. I can't do it. So
So you're more of a big picture guy, maybe, when it comes
yeah,
to
I think
creating
so. I
these?
think that's what I gravitate towards. And I think that's what I loved about the trading card stuff too, because it was usually just one figure, and then something in the background. And those are my favorite books. That, well, actually, now I think about how many of all the Goosebumps books I did, they were mostly only one figure in the foreground that I can think of. Probably
I think
all of
that's the
them
way
were.
Tim would do it too. I think he usually
Yeah,
would have one like major focal point, one
yeah,
thing to look at.
yeah,
But yeah, you're right. Mark Nagata, his paintings were a little more intricate.
yeah. I'm too lazy to do that.
Well, and I was gonna say too, I mean, you're lucky in the sense that you loved comic book art, and
Mhm.
that you had so much experience making it yourself because that's timeless art. I
Yeah,
the the comic book characters we have now still look pretty similar to those that were being created during the golden
yeah,
age
yeah,
of comic books. So I can imagine you still had a pretty good sense of what the kids enjoy because you had all this experience with the kind of art that has defied the ages. It's defied time.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I see that now.
True.
I hadn't really thought of that before. Even this Shop Till You Drop Dead book, the creature on it does look like Beast from the X-Men, and it does look like a comic book character with all the
Yeah, yeah,
musculature and
yeah,
the angles.
yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where it came from, was that kind of influence of, and doing a lot of the comic book stuff at the time. I always loved that really extreme foreshortening, which is what there's a lot in, I think, in the covers that I did for them, like him reaching his hand out or whatever. I always got a kick out of that, the way they look. So like they're
Yeah, if the
coming at,
character's reaching out toward you, it's
yeah,
a little
yeah,
scarier in a way,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Did you do other covers up to this point? And you did the trading cards. Did you do any other
When
book
I
covers
was
for other
the
series?
first book covers, those were the first book covers I ever did, was the Goosebumps stuff, the Give Yourself Goosebumps. And then after that kind of faded away, I started doing lots of stuff. I was doing a lot of things with Scholastic. I did some Animorphs covers. I did some replica covers. Um, and some other types of stuff. It started to turn into more photographic stuff. Like they would give me photos, and I would kind of do, not photo montage, but like photo editing type stuff. That's what the replica stuff was for sure. And then
Yeah.
Animorph stuff was trying to make the pose from the kid into the whatever animal they were going to turn into. That was challenging, but
Yeah, how many of those covers did you do? Were you there during
gosh,
like the first when it was
you
first being
know,
published or toward
I
the latter
it
end?
it always felt like I was coming in at the end. Maybe the artists ahead of me were like, okay, I've done enough. Um, but it always seems like it was like, okay, this either the for some reason the person couldn't finish doing them, or when my agent was like, he can do anything, just send them to him. So, and I did. I loved it. I loved it. Loved doing all that stuff. It was so much fun. We're gonna get a kick out of it.
So even
So
though it was a challenge to do Animorphs, you still enjoyed that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
still enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a great job. I mean, I have a great job. I'm blessed. Everybody talks about their dream job, and I have my dream job. It's like there's nowhere else to go. For me, I really, really love what I do. So I'm very
What
blessed.
what Animorphs covers did you do? Do you remember what animals maybe? Maybe
I
not the names,
don't
but
remember. I'd have to find out. I don't. I haven't. It's been such a long time. I really wasn't super jazzed about how they came out. So,
so you
um,
blocked them out of your memory? Is that what you're
probably, yeah.
saying?
Hopefully, to any fans out there, I'm sorry if I did a bad job, but I did like doing them. I don't remember. I feel like I didn't want a kid with that turned into a bear, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that's just coming into my head. But I don't. I'd have to see them again if I could. If I
Was it
saw them again, I
like a
would could
polar
tell right
bear?
away.
Do you remember? Or brown bear?
I think it was a brown bear, but I'm not a hundred
Okay.
percent sure.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
think I know which one you're talking about.
oh yeah,
So
good.
I think the person who did the majority of the Animorphs covers, David Mattingly, he used a program called Elastic Reality
Oh
in order to
wow,
get
yeah,
that gradual morphing effect.
yeah.
Um, did you use anything like that
I
when?
think I used something called Morph, and it was not very good and didn't do such a good job. And it took forever. I remember, like, you'd give it, I think you could tell it how many iterations you would want, and it would do different frames, and they were so bad. And this is back when Photoshop was still, back when I was using it, they didn't even have layers. You had to work on one layer. It was kind of nuts when I think about how we did it. I'm not even sure, but I remember it just took forever. Like, and you'd wait and wait and wait, and then it would draw whatever it was drawing, and it would be terrible. And you'd be like, "Oh, I got to do it again." So, and then I remember we had to like touch up the in between frames because it never really did such a great job. So it
Right.
was more of a photo retouching job than anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can imagine that's extremely challenging to get that gradual transformation at those different stages. Um, when you did those covers, were you the one actually? Did you just illustrate each stage of the transformation and then they arranged it, or did you also do the arrangement? Do you remember doing the background as well?
I'd have to see them. I
Okay.
can't remember. I can't remember, but I have a feeling that I gave them, maybe it was all one illustration, because I was just thinking, maybe did we even have layers back then? I'm not 100% sure. But I know that the photographer in New York would take the pictures and she'd send me slides. excuse me, she'd send me slides, and then I would go get the slides turned into discs at the local. It was a process. I can't now I think about it, I'm like, how did we do this?
It
And I
doesn't
guess
sound
it
like
was
you
all
enjoyed it
within a
that much.
month.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, it's crazy how we did this compared to now, how easy everything is now. It was this
So
process.
they would basically send you a picture of the model, the
Mhm.
child model that they
And
used,
whatever pose, whatever they
and
were
then they would
using.
also have the animal picture they send to you, or do you pick that part?
Yeah, yeah, it was usually a stock picture, a stock photo of an animal. And back when they had stock books and you flipped through and you found the polar bear or whatever, and then I would take the two. I guess in the program, you have a beginning and an end, and you let it kind of you tell it, I want to do 6 iterations between the two, and it would kind of really just kind of warp the image into the final. But it always needed work. I remember that was one of the things that always needed work.
Well, that's a
Needed
good thing it needed work because otherwise they wouldn't need to hire an artist
they
for
don't
it,
need
right?
me.
Yeah.
They don't need me. Right, exactly.
So getting back to Goosebumps, I was curious when you were working on those covers, did you ever put any Easter eggs in your covers? Anything like a little wink to yourself, maybe? That
Yeah, well, one book, I put some stuff on the wall. I think it was the one with came from oh,
came
what
from
is
the
it?
internet?
Yes, it came
Yeah.
from the internet. I think there's some stuff on the wall. I wish I would have done more. Now, I mean, I would load them up right now if I had a new one to do. I would just bury all kinds of stuff in there. Um, I occasionally would put stuff in, but not as much as I wanted to, right? Or what I would do now, rather. Yeah.
Did you put any family and friends in your pictures? I know that
Yes.
you
Yes.
showed up in at least one of them.
Yep. My wife is the she posed for the cat, the lady with the cat.
Night of a Thousand Claws, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good. And then my dog was the one flying through the air in the Twister of Terror, I think is what it's called. That
Right.
was our dog at the time.
There's a pug.
And yep, a pug. Yep.
What was your dog's name?
That was Sophie at the
Sophie.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was
And
that
so,
so I noticed in your profile picture here in Zoom you actually have two pugs. Is that so one of
well,
those is
that was when
Sophie?
we no, that was Toby. We went to pick him up, and his mom was one of the pugs in that picture, and he was in the other. He was one of the smaller one, I guess. So we're on pug number 3 now. Laying at my feet is Zeus.
That's
He's
a
our
perfect
latest.
name for a pug.
I know he's our
Yeah.
latest acquisition. He looks like he doesn't really look like he looks more like a moose or a goose than a Zeus, but um, he's quite funny. So
But he
yeah,
feels
we're
like a Zeus on
yeah,
the
yeah.
inside, right? Yeah,
He thinks he's a Zeus for
exactly.
sure. He runs the house for
Hmm.
sure. But yeah, so yeah, the cat in the Night of a Thousand Claws was our calico cat. So it was kind of a mishmash of my wife and
Oh,
our
okay.
cat at the time. So yeah,
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah, it's crazy.
And you
Yeah,
showed
so
up
it's
in I think it's Invaders of the Big Screen, the name. Is that correct?
yes, a really bad drawing. Oh my god. Yes, that's me.
So did you
Yeah.
take a picture of yourself on that pose, get
I
it developed and
I must have well then we got a Polaroid. So that's
oh,
I
right.
wish
Yeah.
I had the Polaroid of my wife, but I remember taking that picture of her, and then we must have it must have been just a Polaroid camera. And oh my gosh, the quality back then was just terrible. Terrible.
But it has charm. Those old
It,
Polaroids,
it
a little
does. It does.
blurry.
Exactly.
Yeah,
A lot blurry, a lot blown out.
exactly. Is there a favorite cover that you've done?
I think the it came from the internet. It's probably my favorite one.
That's my favorite
And
too. Yeah.
is it? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Good taste.
Yeah. Oh, see,
Uh,
look at that.
I love I that was fun to do. And as sad as it is to admit that that was my computer at the time, my Mac 2E, no, Mac 2C, I think. Oh my gosh. And it was massive and it had a crummy little monitor. And yeah, everything you see in that is directly lifted off of my desktop at the time. So
So you had a perfect reference as you were working.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
all I had to do was look down. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
I mean, and that those computers, that's what everybody had, right? Those
yeah, for
boxy
sure.
computers at that time.
Yeah,
Right. And
for
I
sure.
remember we had those at the library at our school way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a perfect snapshot of that time period as well. And also it's to me it's just a funny concept because uh I think with every new advancement in technology, there's new horror stories based around it, which is always fun. So the internet, right? It's fun
Yeah.
to have a scary story about the internet. Before that, it was just
Right.
computers, computers
Yeah.
attacking people or viruses that turned out to be real viruses or who knows.
Right. Awesome.
Um, so yeah, I love everything about that book. It's just a fun cover, fun
Oh,
concept.
cool. Cool. Me too.
Um, and so what about any least favorite covers?
Oh man, this is where it gets tricky.
I don't have any least favorite covers of yours. I love
Ah,
them all. If that
so
makes you
funny.
feel better. Yeah.
I the most challenging one I think was the one on the elevator. I think that was wasn't it, it yeah, it was I guess because it was there were a lot of back and forth on that was probably the most we had back and forth on, which is fine. But they did I one of the other heads that I had on the guy was different and I liked it better. And
Uh,
they picked, and I've learned since then, don't if you don't really love something, don't send it to them because they might pick it.
yeah.
And so they picked the one that I really wasn't that crazy about. But
The
it's
Doc
okay. I
Brown
mean,
head.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Doc Brown head. So yeah, it's yeah, no, I still there's something, and this kind of relates to all the work I do now. There's always something in there that I like, usually 99% of the time. It's very rare that I do work and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Just get it out of my way. So it might not be perfect, but at least there's something that I like about it, which is good. So that's kind of the same thing with the book covers.
So it's hard to pick a least favorite.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's probably comes closest to the least favorite, I think.
So if you could do it differently, you would have just picked another head, maybe.
Probably, yeah. And yeah, made it a little bit more, I don't know, maybe a little bit more even extreme, kind of even lower, because we're kind of looking up at him, I think, as he's coming through the door, getting stuck, basically. He was supposed to be getting stuck. And
Yeah.
I would just make it a little bit more elegant, I think.
What about one of my favorites as well, All Day Nightmare with
Oh, I
the
like that one
wolves?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean the perspective is really challenging.
That was very challenging, actually. Now that you mention it, yeah, I remember they were like, "You're in a tree," is what they said. I remember that, and three werewolves or wolves are trying to get to you, and I was like, "How in the world am I going to do this?" And it actually came out pretty good. I really like. It's very dark compared to all the others. It's dark just in tone, and it's also kind of more sinister looking to me. It's more, I was going to say adult, but it is sort of more not as um,
Not as
comicky, I
humorous,
guess.
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Not as humorous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because one of the things that R.L. Stein even had said about his books is that he wants them to be not just focused too much on the horror, but also to have funny moments in order to
Yeah,
provide some relief from all the
yeah,
tension, especially since it's for kids.
sure.
And I think the covers tend to reflect that as well. They're scary, but they could also be a little bit funny. That
Yeah.
did start to change though. When you started to come into the picture, the Goosebumps books got a little scarier, both
Oh, did I?
in the content of the stories as well as the pictures, the
Yeah,
illustrations.
yeah.
Even Tim's covers for Goosebumps 2000, they started to get a little slimier and
Hmm.
eyeballs hanging out. And I think the fact that you came in to the Goosebumps world at this precise moment, your covers fit in pretty well since they were more scary, maybe. Not
Mm,
as much humor.
yeah,
Hmm.
well, that's cool. I got lucky then.
Yeah, yeah, perhaps you did.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything, I mean, looking back that you would change about this whole experience working on the Goosebumps covers?
Man, no. I mean, I would have loved to have met Tim and Mark and Mr. Stein at some, I mean, maybe it'll still happen. But I and I was when I was talking to Mark about this, we sort of were working not in a vacuum, but it was a job. I mean, I knew about Goosebumps books, and it's not like I didn't know what they were, but it you work on stuff and you don't really think that much about it. It's just a job at the time. It's like I want to do something cool, but you never think that it's going to live for as long as this has lived. And I wish I would have I wish I would have saved all the stuff that I had back then. I mean, that just to have it. And I've said this story before, but I had all the books. I remember they never sent us anything, so I would go when the book came out. I would go to the bookstore and I'd buy the book, and I had a stack of them. My daughter's now 19, excuse me, 19, and when she was about 8 or so, and she's a super avid reader. She started reading really, really early. And she read everything. And I asked her one day, I said, and they were in her closet, and I said, are you going to read these? And she was like, nah, not really. I'm like, okay. And so I signed them all. And then I think I took them to our local library and donated them. And I wish I would have kept them, like a dummy. I
So
just
I'm going to need to know the exact address of this library.
exactly.
It
It
could
was
still
either
be
her
there.
it was either her school or it was the local library. And I need to go to the library and see if any of them are there, because then I would really know whether or not they were there or it was her school, but
Hmm.
one of the two.
Is there anything so how did the whole thing end? Is there any like did the jobs just they stopped contacting you? You were told that it was going to end or what?
Well, I did that last illustration of the penguins, and people asked me before what it was called, and I said I couldn't remember, but for some reason or other, something sticks in my mind that they called it the March of the Angry Penguins, but I'm not exactly sure if that's what it was. But that sticks in my head. Um, and when that one I did that one, and they sent it off, and they paid me, and then after that, my agent said they're not going to do any more, but I've got this other work for you. And it was probably about the time Animorphs or Replica, one of them came along. And I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then just forgot about it. And that's kind of how it ended. It wasn't like, he would have just said, you know, they're not going to do them anymore, whatever. So, and at that point, I'd done like 20 something of them. So
Oh yeah.
it was not that it was getting, I still loved doing them, but I wasn't surprised actually because jobs usually don't last that long. I mean, when I do book covers, I still do a lot of book covers, and if you get 4 out of a series, that's pretty impressive. So to do as many as they've done, it's pretty amazing.
I did want to ask you
Amazing.
about that Penguins cover because it's been a little mysterious about what the subject matter was as well as the title. And so you're
Yeah,
thinking maybe March of the Angry Penguins?
I want to say that, and but maybe that's my imagination. I don't remember when March of the Penguins came
I
out. It
think
was
it came out
much
after.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was
much
gonna.
later, much later. So that's probably in my imagination. But I remember them saying they wanted angry, I guess emperor penguins, or maybe it was just angry penguins. And I remember thinking that was the weirdest thing they've asked for. It was
Yeah.
very bizarre. I was like, but penguins are so cute. And then I got them like really angry, mad looking, and that was fun. I liked doing the background, which is like glaciers and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
icebergs, I think. So
I mean, did you and they ordinarily would give you the title, right? They give you the title as well as a description,
I think so. Yeah, I would imagine so.
but that's
Unless, like
probably
you were
on like a
saying,
fax lost somewhere.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. If it's probably in a trash heap somewhere. Oh, that's the thing. Like I said, that's the thing I would change. I would go back and go save all this stuff, man. You're gonna want it someday.
I'll be honest with you, Scholastic probably has it,
They may
right?
have it.
Since they're
Yeah,
faxing it over to you, they must have copies somewhere.
yeah. You would
So,
think so, right? Yeah.
it's hard to get anything out of them though.
Is it? Yeah.
We've all
I can
tried.
imagine. I can imagine. Yeah.
Um, so what do you say? Do you think Goosebumps, looking back on it now, overall a good experience? I see that you're kind of getting back into the Goosebumps family, which is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
how has that
Yeah.
been?
Awesome. Awesome. It's been a great experience. I love it. And it's so neat. And I talked to Tim and Mark about this too. And it was, you just don't think that this stuff will come back in your life. You just don't. And then to have this renewed interest, and it started with the another podcast,
That's
and
the
people,
Goosebumps Crew podcast.
yeah, Goosebumps Group
Yeah,
podcast,
I've been on
and
there too a couple times.
oh,
Yeah,
they're such sweet
yeah, they're
guys,
cool
really
guys.
nice.
Yeah.
And and my even my family were like, "You're on a what?" And I'm like, "A podcast." And they were like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, watch it." And so in that, I don't know if you saw the first podcast, but it was like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And my sister sat through the whole thing, her and her husband, and I was like, "You watched the whole thing?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, we loved it." And so it's been great. It's been great. It's been really cool to do sketches for people, and that people are interested in my work is always complimentary. Always. I mean, it's great. And just having conversations with people on Instagram, and it's been fun, man. Really get to meet people like you and meet the other guys, and it's just been awesome. And I'm gonna be going to a convention.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
But I'm trying to find a book here. I promise I'm doing something very relevant to our conversation. So yes, you are going to Curse City Con in San
yeah, in San
Antonio. This
Antonio.
is September
Yeah.
27th to the 28th.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. Can't wait.
So I pulled this book as well. I do love
Yeah.
the cover art for one
Oh,
reason.
thanks.
That's one good
Thanks.
reason to pull it out. But one of the significant things about this cover is that you are recreating or doing your own version of one of Tim Jacobus's earlier covers. So it's not new to you to do any of these old characters, but you've been doing a lot more recently for these commissions.
Yep.
You've done Carly Beth as the Haunted
Yep.
Mask, Curly the Skeleton,
Yep.
Slappy multiple times now. Do
Yep.
you have any favorites? Like a favorite one to draw?
Oh, man. I did one that was the Scarecrow, and it's kind of like my take on it, so they're not really
Oh, of
um
course. Yeah.
exactly what Tim would do, or um but that I there's something weird about drawing the Scarecrow that's creepy. I don't know what it's about the Scarecrow. And then I did one that was he was in one of the sketches I did. He was the mummy, and he was just fun to draw. And I don't know, something about lanky characters that I think is kind of cool. Um, but I'm getting better at doing Slappy, a little bit better. And my Curly kind of looks like he doesn't really look as fun as Tim's Curly does. Mine's a little bit more skeleton like.
No, I love your Curly. I've loved all of your versions of these characters.
Oh,
They've been so fun
thanks.
to see on
Thanks.
Instagram. And I'm surprised
Thanks.
you're saying that Slappy was so challenging for you. I mean, it looks very good, the first one that you
Oh,
did for me.
thank
Unless
you.
you did like 100 other sketches before you gave me one.
Probably like 80. Redraw and redraw and draw and redraw.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
No, of course, of course.
Cool.
So we are coming up on the end of our little conversation here. I wanted to reiterate that you will be at Curse City Con in San Antonio,
Yes.
September
Yes.
27th to the 28th. Also, if anybody listening is interested in getting a sketch from
Yep.
Mr. Craig White here,
Yeah.
how can they contact you? What's the best way?
Probably Instagram's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I have a website, but nobody ever goes to. And then yeah, Instagram, direct message on Instagram, and I try and mostly check it every day. It sometimes days go by where I'm like, oh man, I gotta check. So if I don't get back to you, please be patient. So I'm trying. This is all new to me, so I'm trying.
Well, no, you're very responsive on
Oh,
Instagram.
thanks.
Absolutely. And it's at Craig White Illustration. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, and the work that you've been doing is amazing. You do
Thank you.
sketches of your previous covers for Give Yourself Goosebumps. You also
Yeah.
create entirely new sketches based on what
Yeah.
somebody would like.
Yeah.
You do colored versions. You do
Yep.
just plain black and white pencil sketches.
Yep.
Um, awesome stuff. So yeah, everybody go check those out.
Oh,
Great stuff.
thanks. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to add before we close things here?
Just I'm amazed by your collection. Your collection is unbelievable. And I remember when I first saw some of your posts, I told my wife, I said, look, this is like a bookstore. It's like a bookstore or literally a library. That's amazing to me. I look back there and I'm just blown away. So Congrats, man. You've done amazing
Oh,
work.
thank you. Yeah, it was I think in 2019 when uh so basically my wife and I and our kids, we were living in this one house. She really wanted to move. I didn't want to move. But one of the benefits to moving to this new place was there was a basement, and part of the deal was, okay, look, I'm okay moving, but I get this room in the basement, and I'm just going to do
Nice.
whatever I'm going to do whatever I want with it, and that's what ended
Nice.
up happening. And then yeah, of
Awesome.
course, the collecting started to get more intense during the pandemic, like I'd said before. And yeah, and
I
thank you,
love it.
thank you so much.
So are your kids old enough to read, or are they readers, and do they like the stuff that you used to read?
So I have two daughters. One is 2 years old. The other is 5 years old. They're turning
Oh,
3 and 8, or I'm sorry, 3 and 6 pretty soon.
yeah,
And I mean the younger one is obviously too young to be reading on
right.
her own.
Yeah,
Our 5-year-old loves to read,
cool.
and I'm trying to get her into Goosebumps.
Yeah.
But
She always just to go into the basement and pick one out.
I know, I've plenty to choose from, and the thing though is that she's at the age now where she's very concerned or interested in what's more often categorized as a girl thing versus a boy
Yeah,
thing.
sure.
And I'm
Yeah,
trying to get her past that
yeah.
because, of course, Goosebumps are for everybody. But
Sure.
she
Yeah,
does see it
for
more as a
sure.
boy thing now because her dad is interested in it.
Yeah, yeah. I see. I
But
see.
also have plenty of Babysitters Club and other books for her to pick from.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Very cool.
All right. Well, that does it for our conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Jared. I
And I
appreciate
hope
it.
we can talk again soon.
Oh, yeah. I'd love it. I'd love it. It was great.
This has been an episode of the 90s Kid Library Podcast. A special thanks to the Rallies for providing the music. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also learn about this episode and future episodes by following me, 90s Kid Library, on Instagram. Until then, this is Jared Goodman reminding you that you are all that and a bag of chips. Peace out.